Good afternoon, Suidlanders. How are you? Good evening, I should say. The time is now 6:30 on Friday, the 9th of December 2022, and this is Suidlanders Week in Review. While preparing for this, I thought to myself, the two events that have completely dominated the past week, and that we should really just focus on those. But there are a couple of other things, and I'm going to skip through them quickly, and then we'll get to the meaty stuff. So, this week, the United States government and Russia reached an agreement on a prisoner swap to get Brittany Grimes, the women's basketball player, who was caught smuggling dacha oil in her vape pen into Russia. And they've been trying to get her back, trying very hard, but the Russians have steadfastly refused a prisoner exchange unless the person that the USA would give in return was Victor Boot. Victor Boot is the character upon which the 2005 movie Lord of War was based. He has otherwise been gone by the nickname The Merchant of Death. That movie starring Nicolas Cage, that arms dealer, that's Victor Boot. And the Russians said, we will take nobody, we are not interested unless it is Victor Boot. She stays here unless you give us Victor Boot. End of story. And eventually the Americans relented, and that's quite a big thing. Swapping a woman NBA star for one of the biggest arms dealers of history. What next? Have I lost my place? Oopsie. You'll just have to be a little bit patient with me while I get my place back. Boom. There we go. Oops. We had Harry and Meghan documentary on Netflix, which has been mocked relentlessly across the internet. Trevor Noah, at last, is leaving the Daily Show. Thank goodness. I really, it's my opinion. I don't know the ratings, but it's my opinion that they kind of put up with him put up with his performance in the spirit of political correctness long after it could be commercially justified. That's my genuine impression. There was something else. One other little thing. Sudden adult death. Huge thing. It's really bubbling to the surface at the moment. We are seeing a fair amount of speculation or coverage, talk about China invading Taiwan and whatever. Let's get to the real stuff. And in my opinion, the two really big events, or the three, let's make it three big events of this week, have been Eskom scrambling to avoid stage 7 load shedding. We've heard that we were almost at stage 8 for the first time ever. Then we were told that it wasn't going to go to stage 7. They didn't shut down Koeberg for long overdue maintenance, which, if you ask me, is practically the epitome of the expression kicking the can down the road. It was a dumb decision. We should have gone to stage 7. We should have gone to stage 8 if our utter priority is to fix the problem. We should have got on with the long overdue maintenance at Koeberg rather than play for political points, even though it obviously would have been a great inconvenience to many people. But that inconvenience is going to come from the left or from the right. It's going to come today or tomorrow. It's going to This is kicking the can down the road. And I'm quite sure that this is not the last that we've heard of this. I'm quite sure that the writing is on the wall, and we're going to see a hang of a lot more talk about 5, 6, 7, 8, 5, 6, 7, 8, 8, 7, 6, 5. And interestingly, you know that we were at stage 6 earlier in the week. We were promised that on Friday we would go to stage 5. And I don't know how it was in your area, but here in the Northern Cape, or certainly in this region, we dropped a stage, but the number of hours of load shedding didn't change at all. We might as well have remained on stage 6. So I found that quite, intellectually, I don't know, what is the right word, kind of stimulating, if you like. I spent some time thinking about that. Like, if you drop the phase, never mind facetiousness, sarcasm, irony, whatever. It's just this thing of, how do you drop a phase, but the effect for most of the people remains the same, but perhaps it was just for some of the people. And the areas of big business like Gauteng, you would know, I wouldn't, and Durban and Port Elizabeth, Cape Town, etc., did score an hour back. Maybe it's just us. Anyway, the next of the 3 big events of this week, of course, was Cyril Ramaphosa's drama. This week's portion of the drama that began last week, Wednesday, the 30th of November, when the special, the Section 89 Committee of Retired Judges under former Chief Justice Sandile Ngcobo submitted their report on the Phala saga to the Speaker of the Parliament and what emerged over the next few days. And of course, by Monday, the President wasn't resigning. He didn't have a family meeting with the country. He didn't address us on SABC. And we were told that he was going to fight this thing and that he had been convinced that he stood a very good chance of winning it. And it dragged on for a little bit, and there's been lots of coverage of it, and it's kind of simmering in the background, isn't it? Very big thing, very intense, very serious, but no meaningful explosions right at the moment. But it is not going away. And again, I remind you that next Friday, today's the 9th, 16 minus 9 is 7, so 7 days from now, does that make it next Thursday? Saturday, Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, next Friday, the 16th, the ANC's elective conference begins. And it's going to be spectacular, even if they manage to suppress information about it. I can tell you that behind the scenes it's going to be fireworks, and I put it to you that those fireworks, Winston Churchill had an expression after, what was it? There was Dunkirk, and that was the Dorme speech, where he spoke in French. And then I can't remember, there was some other operation. And he gave a speech afterwards in which he said, this is not the end. This is not the beginning of the end. But it may just be the end of the beginning. Meaning, in the early phases of World War II, Hitler, by dint of surprise and splendid preparation, had the upper hand for the first period up to and including Dunkirk and beyond, and the invasion of Norway and so on. And that carried on for quite a while. But at some point there was a little, I wouldn't call it so much a turning point, but there was a little crucial phase where the British and their allies managed to prevail. And Churchill was saying, okay, maybe the beginning, when we just took hidings, left, right, and center, perhaps perhaps that's behind us. Maybe we you know, this is the end of the beginning, and we can look forward to the middle, and so on. Right. So I would say to you, with that in mind, that maybe, just perhaps, what we're seeing now with Phala, given that it was a deliberate expose by the head of the State Security Agency, Arthur Fraser. He betrayed his boss. That's as simple as that. One of the most magnificent, if that's the correct word, acts of betrayal in the history of politics. Anywhere. The head of the CIA or the whatever, MI5, is the dude that betrays his president. Can you imagine how icy cold those security cluster meetings have been in recent months? Oh boy, it's unbelievable. It's open rebellion in the highest echelons of South African politics. You walk into a security cluster meeting or security portfolio meeting, you've got the minister of security, you've got the head of the state security organization, you've got perhaps the head of police crime intelligence, I should think, you've got the head of military intelligence, you've got this, that, whatever, different people. And a number of those people are at war. They're all at war with one another. They're all on one side or the other. So given that goes back to February, was it February of this year, that he walked into Rosebank police station with his lawyer and he made all those claims? Well, perhaps in light of that, we may say this is not the end. It's not the beginning of the end, but it is long past the end of the beginning. Even though we may not be privy to every dramatic development, the knives are out and these people are involved in a fight to the death. I received a voice note this week, and it was so sensitive that there was absolutely no way that I could share it with any human being in the world except for Mr. Miller, personally, individually, and solely. And I'm not going to go into the details of it. Let it suffice to say, though, that the knives are out, and they are wheeling out the big guns. They are wheeling out, guys. They're playing for blood now. Only. Bruises, broken bones don't count unless blood flows. Neither side will be happy. Right, and last but not least, perhaps arguably the biggest event of this week has been the Ukrainian, actually it goes back a little bit more than a week, but it took a day or two for the thing to fully come out. And really, I do a fair amount of research, just reading, hoping that, I can remain abreast of what's cooking. And I say that because I think that qualifies me to tell you that the majority of the coverage of this event, notwithstanding that it happened like 8 days ago, was on Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday of this week, 2, 3, 4 days later. once it, came out fully, what happened. So let's get to the point. The Ukrainians bombed 2 Russian airfields deep inside the territory of Russia, not on the border. The Ukrainians employed a couple of old Soviet drones from the 70s or 80s that they had converted to carry an explosive or a bigger explosive payload. And they bombed this airfield at Ryazan and the Engels. You know, Marx and Engels, Friedrich Engels, famous humanist, socialist. Right, there's an airbase that still retains his name from communist times. And the salient points here are, number one, that it's open aggression on the territory of Russia. Number two, that it's deep inside Russia. They're going for the jugular. Number three, that those are the air bases for the Tu-95s. TU, short for Tupolev 95. In Russia, this comes from Soviet times. Soviet, by the way, if you never knew, you may be interested to discover this. I didn't know. Union of Soviet Socialist Republics. What does that mean? Left-handed people. Global support. What does it mean? A Soviet is a village council. So the implication in calling yourself the Union of Soviet Socialist Republics is that you say our socialism it goes right to the lowest level of representation. The village council, that's not how it was structured, but they were drawing on that idea of the real representation. Anyway, from Soviet times. The various design bureau, Yakovlov, dear me, I'm trying to think of one, it sounds like Beria. Oh dear me. Anyway, one specialized in training aircraft, one specialized in naval aircraft, one specialized in a fighter attack aircraft, one specialized in strategic bombers, and so on. So that these design bureau. Anyway, Tupolev specialized in long-range strategic bombing capacity. And so you have the three great strategic bombers of Russia are the Tu-22M, the Tu-95 NATO reporting named Bear, and then the Tu-160. You will remember that we had at Waterkloof Air Force Base, those big ones with the Delta plane. That's the Tu-160, long-range strategic bomber. But that's not the one that they hammered. What they hammered is the one with the 8 counter-rotating propellers. So there are 4 propeller stations, but each of the 4 has 2 counter-rotating propellers. I can't even counter-rotate. I probably can't walk and chew gum. This is what they hit. Now we come to the real point. The significance of this cannot be overestimated. You cannot, your estimation, you can't get carried away enough to be too carried away. NATO, because such a thing could never have happened without NATO guidance systems, NATO global positioning systems, and certainly NATO's approval. the significance of hammering the strategic bomber fleet is huge. It's huge, it's huge, it's huge. Now bear in mind that all countries have a three-way strategic nuclear defense system. And that is land-based, air-based, and sea-based. So what you're doing is kind of taking a panga or an axe to one of the three legs of a three-legged chair on which a country is sitting. It is an act of provocation that is beyond the imaginations of you and me. You and I would put it to you respectfully, lack the technical knowledge to fully appreciate the degree and the extent of the insult, of the provocation, of the threat, of the jeopardy, of the attack when you start hacking or proving that you can hack at one leg of what they call the nuclear triad. Vladimir Putin will see this in a very, very dim light indeed. And I urge you, ladies and gentlemen, to remember this event in the days, weeks, and months that lie ahead of us. There is no way it can go unanswered. How he is going to answer is the only question. And nobody, as far as I know, has come up with a good suggestion of what his answer is going to be. But whatever it's going to be almighty. Anyway, thank you very much for watching Suidlanders, the week in review for Friday, the 9th of December, 2022. We shall see you again next week, next Friday, when the ANC's elective conference will be underway. I'm sure we'll have interesting things to share. All right, everybody. Good night. God bless you. May you have a blessed weekend. Thank you.